Hi, I'm Martin McGrath from Financial Edge Group, and today I'm going to answer one of the most common questions I get, which is what are the costs involved with a self-managed super fund or an SMSF? Basically, there's two parts of that. There's the upfront cost and then there's the ongoing costs. And these are just generic numbers. But basically, to set up a self-managed super fund, you legally have some documents you need to prepare. One is called a trust deed, which basically is the rules of the self-managed super fund, and typically you'd set it up with a company involved as well. If you were going to do that yourself and not get any advice and just go away and set it up, you can probably get it done for anywhere as cheap as $1,000 as a starting point. I would say that there's some mistakes that can be made if you do it the wrong way, and if you don't set it up the way it needs to be done and comply with all the rules, it can end up costing you a lot more. Typically, you get some advice from an accountant and or a financial planner to make sure that you're doing the right things, and ideally you have a strategy in place. One of the rules for a self-managed super fund is that you need to have an investment strategy. So what are you investing in? Why are you investing in it? Why is it going to make sense for that money for your retirement? So as a bare minimum DIY, you're probably looking at $1,000. If you're going to get some advice and strategy and advice around contributions and the rest of it for the projection of the rest of your life, there's a bit more involved, and that can cost anywhere from say $2,000 to $5,000 in total. Often with that, you get what you pay for. Then in terms of ongoing cost for a self-managed super fund, there are a few things that basically are mandatory that you have to pay for. One is the ATO charge a levy for having your own self-managed super fund, and that cost, it changes every year, but around $400 a year. If you have a company, you have to pay a fee to ASIC, and that costs roughly about $50 a year. Every year, your self-managed super fund has to do its own tax returns and financial accounts, and they typically cost, depending on what's involved, anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000. You then, every year, your self-managed super fund has to be audited. So independently of your accountant, another auditor has to come and review your numbers and send a report to the ATO to make sure you've done everything and complied by the rules. The cost of that is probably somewhere between $500 to $1,000. And then typically, even if you were doing it by yourself, you have to pay all that stuff, but normally you'd partner with someone to get some advice around your strategy and your goals and that kind of stuff, and a financial advisor's potentially cost on top. So they're your 5 main key ongoing costs for a self-managed super fund, and practically the cheapest I think you could get away with it would be about $2,000 a year, but practically most super funds cost more, upwards to $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year, and some even more than that. So it depends on your circumstances. But hopefully that makes sense, answer some questions about what's involved in terms of setting one up and the ongoing cost. Now the good thing about a self-managed super fund is that you can actually have more than one person in that fund, so it allows you to share those costs, potentially with 2 people or 3 people or 4 people, and the cost doesn't go up depending on how many members are in the fund. So it can, in some circumstances, make it more cost effective with the more people that are in there, as long as you're on the same strategy and the same growth doing the right thing. Hopefully that helps and makes sense. If you want to find out a bit more, we've got actually a SMSF guide, an essentials guide that we're happy to send out to you. Just send us a comment and we'll send that through.